These are Buda men. They are designing some special equipment for a very unusual railroad. This car is built to run on rails that follow our troops through Africa, India, China, wherever the battle may take them. Special equipment for a very special job. This is another Buda man. He is developing a special diesel engine, which must deliver a special kind of power under very difficult conditions. This man's work, and the work of all the Buda men, is a vital part of a very special job. The biggest job this nation has ever tackled, the drive to victory. This is a war of mobility. This is a war in which mobile engine power and rail power combine to move masses of men, munitions, and machinery to provide striking power. It takes all kinds of special equipment to fight this kind of war. Tools, engines, machinery had to be redesigned and built to do a particular job faster, better. It takes a special type of engine to power landing barges and the new shallow water boats. Buda is building these special engines. It takes another type of power to detect the approach of the enemy or communicate with our field forces. Buda builds the special equipment that powers Army and Navy radio detection equipment. It takes a different kind of power to light up a landing field for our air fighters. Buda builds the equipment for this job, too. Still another type of engine is required to drive a tank. Buda builds the radial aircraft type diesel engine that powers many of these light tanks. Special Buda equipment is in the thick of this battle on land and on sea, furnishing vital striking power to our fighting men on all the fronts. These are the plants in which Buda supplies the tools, the machines, the resources it takes to build the special equipment for the victory drive. These are the men and women of Buda who supply the skill and courage and endurance it takes to do the big job. Some of them have been Buda men for 20 and 30 years. All of them are veterans of this war of production which they are fighting on both the battlefront and the home front. For Buda men and equipment are also serving the railroads, agriculture, and the light and heavy construction industries of this nation in their part of the fight, making and delivering the supplies. Buda men have the know-how, the experience, the craftsmanship that is so essential in the work of designing and building special tools, special engines, new devices. We are proud of these men and the great job they are doing. For they have accepted the great responsibility that has been given to us to supply immense quantities of fighting equipment for our nation, to supply them quickly, economically, and effectively. Here are a few pages from the production records to show what Buda is doing for our country at war, and what we can do for America at peace. The engine that powers these light tanks is the radial aircraft type diesel engine pioneered by Buda, and developed especially for these swift, hard-hitting war machines. The radial engine is built in this modern air-conditioned plant, where a constant temperature is maintained day and night. Double doors are necessary because the atmospheric pressure is always greater inside to prevent dust from entering the plant. All these precautions are taken to protect the close tolerances to which these engines and other Buda products are built, assembled, and tested. The quality of this product has its beginning in the precision and care with which each individual part is machined, gauged, and handled. Turning a small crankshaft pin is done on one of the largest grinders in the plant. Yet each pin is finished under the watchful eye of an experienced operator and turned with an accuracy that is possible only in the newest and finest production machines. And in addition to fine machinery, there is master craftsmanship here at Buda. In this operation, the knuckle pinholes in the master rod are internally ground. There is no more delicate operation in the making of a watch than this preparation of the master rod for assembly. Buda builds every part of this engine from the very beginning. Cylinders are ground here from the rough, and after they are shaped, the cooling fins are cut. As many as 27 cutting tools are butting out ribbons of steel in this one process. Production methods have been advanced to meet war demands, but the quality of the work still remains Buda's best. Buda follows the custom building practice in assembling the engine. One supply rack contains all the parts, down to the last nut and bolt, for one engine. Each part that goes into this engine has been triple checked on the production line, in the stockroom, and again on assembly. Each engine is the product of one perfectly coordinated crew. The end of assembly is just the beginning of the work that assures perfect performance. The engine now begins a test under load for 8 hours. This huge dynamometer supplies the various work conditions of the job for which this engine was designed. The test is practical and exhaustive. A full power curve is recorded at 5 different engine speeds. Buda men know what each engine will do. At the end of 8 hours, this engine is completely torn down, inspected, reassembled, and then run under test again for 4 hours. But as skillfully and accurately as all this work is done, the successful use of this perfect engine depends on the last step, how it is protected in shipping. 3 covers are provided. First, a complete coating of oil to prevent rust and corrosion. Second, a water and weatherproof paper cover. Third, a ruggedly built case to hold the engine securely and protect it against rough handling. It is this combination of research, advanced design, precision construction, and thorough testing that makes this radial diesel engine one of the most reliable and efficient power units in the armed services. Here is an 80-ton locomotive powered by Buda. Many units like this are being used in the United States military railway service that extends halfway around the world. Many service locomotives are equipped with one or more of these supercharged giant Buda diesels. Larger sizes of Buda engines are special purpose jobs, and both the production and assembly methods in this plant must be flexible. Machinery must have an extra reserve capacity so that work of any shape or size can be properly and safely handled. Extremely high accuracy is essential in the machining of these powerful engines. Buda engineers have frequently redesigned or adapted production machines to meet the special requirements of engine construction. Yes, precision bearings are used in the connecting rods of these large diesels. Quality standards are always the same here, regardless of the size of the unit. In this assembly line, the men move instead of the machine. Each crew builds one complete unit. From assembly to the dynamometers for a long test under load, these huge power units are subjected to the same careful and exacting inspections that are given to every Buda product. When an engine passes this test, it's ready to deliver plenty of horsepower, economically and under all kinds of working conditions. Something to shoot at. That's what Buda provides Navy men training in gunnery. Buda builds this target rail car powered by a 55 4/10 horsepower gasoline engine to supply a moving target for the Navy sharpshooters. When it is mounted on its endless oval course, the automatic controls are set and the car starts on its short, swift journey through a field of flying bullets. Here is a fast-moving, sure-footed enemy for our gunners to work on. And if they shoot a little too low, no one gets hurt. The car can attain a speed of 60 miles an hour in a very short space. Special controls automatically slow down the car for the curve. It's built to take punishment. And the way these boys are shooting, it looks as though the target car is doing its job all right. For other branches of the service, Buda builds this multi-gauge motorized rail car, designed to travel on rails anywhere in the world. Special construction makes it possible to quickly adjust the wheels of this car to any one of many different gauge tracks all over the world, from the wide gauge track in Russia to the narrow gauge tracks in Australia or India. Buda's years of experience in building these rail cars and many other tools and machines for America's railroads have produced some unique economies in working procedure. For example, this holding frame or jig provides a means of accurately drilling all the holes in the frame of the car from one position. As the frames move down the track, the engine is installed. Each car is given a preliminary treadle test right in the shop. Remember, the engine has already been tested separately. This is followed by a practical work test out on the rails. The test run is made on a 2.5% grade. On the sea, Buda supplies engine-powered fire pumps and generator sets for carriers, destroyers, and other men of war, providing them with auxiliary power and greater fire protection. Buda builds marine engines that power the smaller ship-to-shore boats, tugs, lighters, barges. Many different types of small engines for all the services are manufactured here. A gasoline engine, a marine engine, a power unit, and several types of small diesels. All these engines are designed by Buda engineers, and they are all completely fabricated in our own plants. Buda forges the majority of its own gear blanks, cuts its own gears. Buda has Magnaflux equipment, the most modern testing device for detecting flaws in metal. Buda is geared up to custom build many sizes and types of engines from 10 to 340 horsepower on a mass production scale, without sacrificing the high quality of workmanship that has become a standard in our custom-built methods. And here is where quality first shows itself, on the test run. Every engine is lapped in for over 2 hours before it fires for the first time. Then the grueling 4-hour test, run under load, hooked up to this dynamometer. Horsepower is translated into kilowatts, and kilowatts write the complete performance record of each engine. When it leaves the plant, every engine, large or small, has been tested and proved ready for the work on land, on sea, or on the rails. For demolition work, for building tank traps or anything else that goes into the ground, Buda supplies the armed forces with power earth drills to dig holes fast, either vertically or at angles. A gasoline engine is mounted on a light truck chassis. The same engine supplies power for elevating the drill gear and turning the drill. This type of equipment offers two great advantages. It can be transported with great speed over almost any kind of terrain, and it can be put into action immediately. In the big job of reconstruction that lies ahead, these Buda products will serve many good purposes. For the Army Signal Corps' job of communications through radio, field telephone, or radio detection equipment, Buda builds a special diesel generator unit which supplies the power. It's the heart of the communication system. In plant number 2, Buda is building generator units for the Army and Navy designed to produce 50 or 60 cycle alternating or direct current to be used for furnishing light or power anywhere in the world. They will generate independently or in combination with other generators. Special equipment designed to do a particular job under very unusual conditions. Diesel engine fire pumps are being supplied to our troops to give additional fire protection in transport, in combat, or at supply bases. Buda chore boys, equipped with auxiliary firefighting apparatus, form a new mosquito fleet of small fire trucks that give added protection in docks, shipyards, and plants. Although this unit is small and inexpensive, it is capable of throwing a tremendous amount of water. Controls are simple and positive. It is always ready for instant service, and it is small enough to move into tight spots where the big trucks can't go. Inside the plant or out in the yards, these chore boy firefighters go right to the hot spot, and they get there fast. And on the home front, Buda continues to serve the quarries, mines, mills and factories, and the farms of America. Most vital of all are the railroads, the lifeline between the home front and the battlefront. In more than 63 years of service to the railroads of this nation, Buda has learned to build and supply the tools, the engines, motor cars, and the equipment that are needed to keep the tracks and rolling stock in good operating condition. Buda jacks have become almost standard equipment in the railroad shops and out on the right-of-way for all types of repair and maintenance work. This small motorized shop truck, the Buda Chore Boy, is saving thousands of heavy steps every day in railroad shops, aircraft plants, and warehouses. It will carry 1,000 pounds in car wheels or 1,000 pounds in bombs. The chore boy is able to turn, stop, maneuver in small quarters with heavy loads. It's easy to operate, reliable, economical to run. Another railroad maintenance tool that is shortening the work along the right-of-way is the Buda rail bender. One man alone can bend a rail cold with this hand-powered device, and he can do the job right on the spot. On the home front, the railroad is our first line of defense. The railroad is the starting point in the production of munitions, ships, guns, food, in assembling, training, and transporting troops. Buda joins with the railroads in serving all the fields of production that have made the great victory drive possible. In the oil fields, Buda pumps, engines, and jacks are helping to supply the fuel this nation and her armies need to win. In the mines, Buda generators and engines are furnishing the power and light for digging, elevating, and hauling coal, stone, iron, the fuel and sinews of war. In heavy construction, Buda diesel and gasoline engines are furnishing horsepower for all types of earth-moving and material hauling. Large Buda jacks are doing much of the lifting on the job. Power shovels, graders, rollers, air compressors for driving pneumatic tools, and engines for trucks that move the material. Buda engines power many of the fishing boats which are supplying much-needed food to this nation. Shrimp fishers in the Gulf, salmon trawlers in Puget Sound, cod fishers on the New England coast. Dependable Buda units are supplying water for many of the irrigated farmlands, another important source of our vital food supply. In the cotton fields where other war materials are being prepared, Buda diesel engines power cotton gin. In the stockyards, chore boys are used for hauling feed, disinfectant, and waste materials. In the great logging industry, where heavy hauling and lifting is an essential part of production, Buda engines and equipment provide much of the power for the yarders and for the saws. Dependable, adaptable power units of Buda are helping to step up war production. In the shipyards, in every vital spot of American industry, special Buda equipment designed to do a particular job has joined in the big job of fighting and building for peace. Every step along the way is made easier, faster, better by some Buda product. This is the work the men and women of Buda are doing in a quiet, modest kind of way. Each one does his individual vital part of the whole big job, and does it well. Each man and woman is furnishing part of the punch that will knock the enemy back into place. Each worker is developing new skills, learning new production methods that will prepare us to serve better when peace comes. But in peace or in war, Buda men are specialists. They have the know-how, the skill, the machinery, and the determination it takes to do the job. Today and tomorrow, Buda serves this nation on all fronts. Wherever the going is tough, wherever there is work to be done, wherever power is needed on land, on the sea, or in the air, Buda men will find the answer to meet the challenge. It takes a special type of engine to power landing barges and the new shallow water boats. Buda is building these special engines. It takes another type of power to detect the approach of the enemy or communicate with our field forces. Buda builds the special equipment that powers Army and Navy radio detection equipment. It takes a different kind of power to light up a landing field for our air fighters. Buda builds the equipment for this job, too. Still another type of engine is required to drive a tank. Buda builds the radial aircraft-type diesel engine that powers many of these light tanks. Agriculture and the light and heavy construction industries of this nation in their part of the fight, making and delivering the supplies. Buda men have the know-how, the experience, the craftsmanship that is so essential in the work of designing and building special tools, special engines, new devices. We are proud of these men and the great job they are doing. For they have accepted the great responsibility that has been given to us to supply immense quantities of fighting equipment for our nation, to supply them quickly, economically, and effectively. Here are a few victories. This is a war of mobility. This is a war in which mobile engine power and rail power combine to move masses of men, munitions, and machinery to provide striking power. It takes all kinds of special equipment to fight this kind of war. Tools, engines, machinery had to be redesigned and built to do a particular job faster, better. These are Buda men. They are designing some special equipment for a very unusual railroad. This car is built to run on rails that follow our troops through Africa, India, China, wherever the battle may take them. Special equipment for a very special job. This is another Buda man. He is developing a special diesel engine, which must deliver a special kind of power under very difficult conditions. This man's work, and the work of all the Buda men, is a vital part of a very special job. The biggest job this nation has ever tackled, the drive to special Buda equipment, is in the thick of this battle on land and on sea, furnishing vital striking power to our fighting men on all the fronts. These are the plants in which Buda supplies the tools, the machines, the resources it takes to build the special equipment for the victory drive. These are the men and women of Buda who supply the skill and courage and endurance it takes to do the big job. Some of them have been Buda men for 20 and 30 years. All of them are veterans of this war of production which they are fighting on both the battlefront and the home front. For Buda men and equipment are also serving the railroad,